I want to tell you about this really interesting story out of Atlanta. A couple kids were arrested for tearing a pride flag at a Rainbow Square sidewalk intersection. And I say that because that's literally the only thing that happened. Now, granted, it was late at night. Somebody called 911, not just the police, called the emergency police line for kids tearing pride flags. Then Atlanta PD sent out a squad car and arrested four of them. Two of them are still on the loose, which is wording that I think is crazy for this particular crime. Okay, so then they were charged with what the police chief or the press conference said was criminal mischief, but that's not what the actual press release said. They were charged with a couple things, but all stemming from criminal property damage, which is also interesting because in the state of Georgia, criminal property damage needs to be exceeding $500. In other words, unless those flags, I don't know, had some sort of gold in them, I don't think it qualifies here. The bottom line is what this looks like is that the Alphabet Mafia is taking something that they don't like, which is tearing the pride flag, and finding a way to turn it into a crime somehow. And obviously, the context here is that, well, if you can burn an American flag and that's legally protected under the constitutional free speech, well, then why is tearing a pride flag, quote unquote, a crime? Well, I don't think it is. And I'm really curious to see how this pans out because the DA is also potentially looking at tacking on a hate crime, which means this could be a several-year prison sentence. Blows my mind, and I hope this gets enough light to make it known to the American people. And here to comment on that and so much more is LA Central Committee member Elizabeth Barco-Hanna and Turning Point contributor Savannah Hernandez. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks, Joe Bob, for having us.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, I want to get to you on this tearing of a pride flag here. I think you probably know a thing or two about the law. Is that illegal? Or I don't know. To me, just on the base of it, it looks like they're trying to find something that makes the destruction of an inanimate object that's not worth a ton of money wrong somehow.
I like your comparison of, we have the First Amendment that allows people to burn and desecrate the American flag. But also, just being someone from LA, I want to import part of the criminal code from Atlanta into LA because one of the charges that these teenagers are being charged with is prowling. We definitely have a prowling problem in LA. We also have a hate crime problem. Right after October 7th, there was a gentleman who was participating in a pro-Israel rally who was hit in the head. He fell down and injured himself by a pro-Palestinian protester. And we still don't have hate crime charges in that case. So whatever is going on in Atlanta, I would like to use some of that here in Los Angeles. We need it.
Yeah, well, maybe if that guy identifies as something that he is not, maybe you can expedite those charges being brought upon that particular individual. Savannah, the criminal property damage implies that, okay, well, this is stolen. And fine, if they stole that flag, which, by the way, nobody knows if they did or where they would have come from. But let's just say they stole the flag. The typical fine is like $250, not condoning them stealing it at all. But at the same time, $250 and a fine is way better than a couple years possibly in jail. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are this is an example of why local politics is so important because even though we have maybe an administration, right, federally that we really like, at the local level, you still have, various politicians and officials who want to make an example out of who is in charge. And the people in charge are the ones who decide that the LGBTQ religion is the most important of all. And if you want to burn an American flag, well, that's just 1A. But if you burn an LGBTQ flag, you've committed a hate crime and you have to go to jail for 10 years because you're now a Nazi. Okay. So this is why local politics is so important. And you need to pay attention with what's going on in your cities and what's going on at a state level, because these are the people that unfortunately are still in charge of many of America's major cities.
Totally, yeah, and that's a local stuff is where things actually happen.